There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working too many hours or getting too little sleep. It comes from years of being treated like you're only valuable when you're useful. That was my life. 22 years of being the responsible one, a polite way of saying the one we rely on to do everything. My name is Stella, and I was raised in a home where responsibility wasn't shared, it was dumped. Where being the eldest child didn't mean guidance or support, it meant unpaid labor and constant guilt. From the outside, it looked like I had a regular suburban life. Two younger siblings, working parents, and a cozy little house. But behind the curtains, I was the one running the show. I helped raise my siblings, cleaned up after everyone, and was expected to do so without complaint. "You're the oldest, set a good example," Mom would say. But no one ever told Roger or Jill to set an example. No one ever expected anything from them except to enjoy their childhood while I sacrificed mine. At first, I thought it was normal. I figured every big sister did this. I thought that helping out meant love, that if I just worked harder, stayed quieter, did more, they'd finally see me. But they didn't. They only saw what I could do for them, and the minute I stopped doing those things, I stopped mattering. It took me a long time to admit that to myself. The breaking point came after one brutal shift at work. I came home, expecting maybe a few minutes of peace, only to find dirty dishes on the table and my brother's trash left everywhere. Then came the final insult. My mom calling me to clean up his mess while he lounged in his room yelling into his headset. When I asked why he couldn't do it, she replied, "Because he's busy." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't going to change. Not unless I changed it. So I left. No big fight, no dramatic farewell. I took my savings, found a studio I could barely afford, and moved out quietly. I thought maybe they'd call to check on me, ask if I was okay, but they didn't. Instead, they called to ask why the house was dirty, why the chores weren't done. They didn't miss me. They missed their maid. The worst part? They truly believed I was being selfish, that walking away from a system where I was exploited, dismissed, and emotionally manipulated was somehow a betrayal. But I wasn't betraying my family. I was saving myself, and that realization was more powerful than any apology they never gave. Now, every time I sit in my quiet apartment, every time I pour myself a cup of coffee and get to drink it while it's still hot, I feel peace. Not because life is perfect, it's not, but because for the first time, I am living for me. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, just living. Turning 21 should have been a milestone, one of those rare moments where you finally feel like you're seen, like you matter. I wasn't expecting a huge surprise party or a brand new car. I just thought maybe, my family would take me out to dinner, a cake, a toast, something to show they remembered. Instead, I got silence. I had always known my younger sister Jessica was the favorite, the golden child, the one with the big dreams and even bigger praise. I was just the placeholder, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who didn't make waves. And maybe for a while, I convinced myself it was okay. That being invisible was better than being a burden. But on my 21st birthday, that illusion shattered. That morning, I texted the family group chat. "Hey, what time are we meeting for dinner tonight?" No response. I waited, watched the clock tick by, noon, 3 p.m., still nothing. Finally, I called my mom. She answered chipper as ever, like it was just another Thursday. "Oh, sweetheart, we're taking Jessica out tonight. She has big news." I blinked. "It's my birthday," I said. She actually laughed. "Don't be so dramatic. We'll celebrate you next weekend, okay?" Jessica's voice rang out in the background. "Tell him we'll save him some leftovers." That was the moment it hit me. They didn't forget. They chose not to care. I didn't fight. I didn't argue. I just quietly made other plans. I called Sarah, my girlfriend, and she immediately knew something was wrong. "Come over," she said. "My parents want to celebrate with you." And just like that, I had a family. Not the one I was born into, but the one that chose me. That night, we went to a steakhouse. We ordered drinks, laughed, toasted to my life. Sarah's dad even called over the waiter and ordered champagne. "He's finally legal," he cheered. And for the first time all day, I felt seen. Out of impulse, or maybe spite, I posted a photo of the restaurant with a short caption. "Huge thanks to Sarah and her amazing family for making my birthday special. Grateful to be around people who actually care." That post blew up my phone, not because my parents felt guilty, but because they were embarrassed. The calls and messages came in waves. Mom was heartbroken, Dad was furious. Jessica said I was making a scene, but none of them said, "We're sorry." None of them asked how I felt. They just wanted me to take it down, to protect the illusion of a happy family, and that was the moment I knew the truth. They didn't care that they hurt me. They cared that I told the world. So I left the post up. Growing up, I always knew where I stood in the family. Somewhere between the shadow of my older brother's perfection and the spotlight of my sister's charm, I existed, quietly. I didn't expect much. I wasn't the type to stir up drama. I just kept my head down and did what was expected of me. That's probably why I ended up fixing the house. When I lost my job at the architecture firm and couldn't afford rent anymore, I asked my parents if I could move back home, just until I got back on my feet. My dad agreed, but with conditions. "Fix the guest room," he said. "New floors, fresh paint, all the works. Do that, and you can stay rent-free for a year." It wasn't ideal, but I said yes. I scraped together my savings, almost $4,000, and got to work. I pulled up old carpeting, replaced damaged subflooring, laid down new hardwood, painted the walls a soft sage green, my mom's favorite color. I put in 2 months of sweat and long days. When I was finally done, the room looked like something out of a magazine. Clean, fresh, perfect. So when I asked my dad, "When can I move in?" and he said, "Actually, your sister needs the room now." Something inside me cracked. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just nodded, packed my things, and left. The first few nights were rough. I slept in my truck, parked behind a 24-hour grocery store, eating fast food and brushing my teeth at gas station sinks. But even in that discomfort, I felt something unfamiliar. Freedom. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. I wasn't a convenience. I wasn't the backup plan. Eventually, I reached out to Mike, my old college buddy. He offered me a spare room without hesitation. His kindness reminded me that real relationships aren't transactional. They don't come with strings or conditions. Then the calls started. First, my mom. "The house smells weird. Something's wrong with the room. Can you come check it out?" Then my dad. "You did something. You cut corners. The mold's spreading." And finally, my sister. "Thanks a lot. Mom and Dad's house is unlivable because of your crappy renovation." I had warned them explicitly about the signs of moisture damage and the risks of skipping proper remediation. My dad refused to listen. "Stick to the budget," he said. So I did. Now that the consequences were showing up, black mold, rotting wood, a $10,000 repair estimate, they expected me to come fix it, to save them, again, but I didn't. I blocked every number. I closed the door they thought they could keep pushing open. Because I finally learned, respect doesn't come from sacrifice, it comes from boundaries. Turning 21 is supposed to be a milestone, a moment of freedom, celebration, and acknowledgement. For me, it was a reminder that I would always be second place in my own family. I wasn't asking for a grand party or anything over the top. All I wanted was a simple dinner, some recognition that I existed. But I should have known better. My little sister Jessica was always the favorite, the golden child, the one who could throw a tantrum and be rewarded with ice cream, while I got a lecture for raising my voice. Growing up in her shadow wasn't dramatic, but it was deeply painful in quiet, relentless ways. Her piano recitals were treated like world premieres. My high school graduation barely warranted a photo. Still, some foolish part of me held on to hope that my 21st birthday would be different. That maybe, just this once, I would matter. I texted the family group chat in the morning. "Hey, what time are we meeting for dinner?" Silence. By noon, I was making excuses for them. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they'd surprise me. But by 3 p.m., that silence had become unbearable. I caved and called my mom. Her voice was cheerful. Too cheerful. "Oh, honey," she said casually. "We're going out with Jessica tonight. She has some big news." I reminded her, "It's my birthday." She laughed. "Matt, don't be so dramatic. We'll do something for you next weekend." Jessica shouted in the background, "Tell him we'll save some leftovers." I hung up. I wasn't sad. I was furious. I called my girlfriend Sarah. I didn't even need to explain. She just said, "Come over." Her family took me out to a steakhouse, toasted to me, made me feel seen. That dinner meant more to me than anything my parents ever did. Out of spite, or maybe healing, I posted a photo of the dinner on Instagram. Thank you to the people who actually care about me. That post set everything on fire. Within an hour, I had texts and calls from my mom, my dad, and even Jessica. Not to apologize. Not to say they forgot and felt terrible. They were angry because I made them look bad. I let the phone ring. That's when I finally understood. They didn't care about me. They cared about controlling the narrative. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry other people saw it. And the worst part? They didn't stop there. They spun the story, called family members, told them I was going through something or misunderstood. My mom even reached out to my coworkers, claiming I was having a mental health crisis. They weren't just trying to rewrite the past. They were trying to erase my voice entirely. But I refused to play along. I blocked their numbers. I documented everything. I talked to HR. I protected myself. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. You don't owe people access to you just because you share blood. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that only comes from family. The kind that doesn't just sting, it rewrites the way you see yourself. That's what happened to me when my dad threatened, "Fix the house or don't bother coming back." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just walked away. And 2 days later, my phone exploded with messages, desperate, blaming, demanding. But let's rewind. My name's Erin. I'm 32. I had lost my job at an architecture firm, and with rent doubling, I had no choice but to ask my parents if I could move back home temporarily. My dad made me an offer. Renovate the guest room, new floors, fresh paint, fix up the place. And in return, I could live there rent-free for a year while getting back on my feet. I took it seriously. I poured in $3,700 of my savings and 2 months of 10-hour workdays. I made that room perfect. Fresh sage green walls, seamless oak flooring, and not a nail out of place. It was the first thing in months that gave me a sense of purpose. But when I finally finished and asked when I could move my things in, Dad said, "Actually, your sister Tara needs the room. Her lease is ending and she wants to save money." Just like that. No apology, no gratitude, just a casual betrayal. I didn't yell, I didn't plead. I just packed up my tools, brushed past him, and left. That night, I slept in my truck behind a grocery store, and that hurt. But the worst part wasn't the cold or the cramped space. It was knowing that 32 years of trying to prove I was good enough, dependable enough, loyal enough, it meant nothing. I was just a tool to them. I stayed with an old friend, Mike, who didn't hesitate to take me in. He was more of a brother to me than my own family. But just as I started moving forward, the calls came. "Something's wrong with the room, it smells. We need you to come fix it." The irony? I had warned Dad about moisture damage under the subfloor, suggested replacing it before laying hardwood. He ignored me. "It's fine, don't run up the bill." And now, black mold had spread. The floors were buckling. The room was toxic. But instead of owning their mistake, they blamed me. Said I cut corners, accused me of sabotaging their home. Even extended family joined the smear campaign. Still, I didn't go back. I'd spent years swallowing mistreatment, trying to be the good son, but I was done setting myself on fire to keep others warm, especially when they never once brought me a match. Eventually, I got a new job doing drafting work. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I saved every penny, built a quiet little life, and for the first time in years, I slept soundly. No guilt, no obligations, no rot beneath my foundation. Because the truth is, sometimes family builds a house of expectations on your back, and when you finally put it down, they call you selfish. But I wasn't selfish. I was just finally free. Some birthdays you never forget. Not because they were joyful, but because they were the final nail in the coffin of hope. For me, that birthday was my 21st. It should have been a milestone, a celebration of adulthood, a small moment where I finally felt seen. But instead, I learned exactly where I stood in my family and how invisible I really was. It started with a simple text in the family group chat. "Hey, what time are we meeting for dinner tonight?" It was a casual message, not demanding or expectant, just hopeful. Hours passed. No reply. I made excuses. Maybe they were busy, maybe they were planning a surprise. But deep down, I knew. By 3 p.m., I called my mom. She answered cheerfully like it was just another Thursday. I asked about dinner, and after a brief pause, she replied, "Oh, sweetheart, we're going out with Jessica tonight. She has some big news." Jessica, my younger sister, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. "Don't be so dramatic," Mom added. "We'll do something for you next weekend." It wasn't the first time they forgot me, but it was the last time I let it slide. That night, I went out with Sarah, my girlfriend, and her family instead. They welcomed me with warmth, treated me like I mattered. Her mom hugged me at the door. Her dad made a toast in my honor. I felt seen, celebrated, even loved. So I posted a simple photo of the dinner on Instagram, grateful for people who actually care. An hour later, my phone exploded. Text from my mom, "What is this post?" My dad, "Are you serious right now?" Calls, voicemails, guilt trips disguised as concern. They weren't upset because they forgot me. They were upset because I told the truth, publicly. They didn't feel bad for neglecting me. They felt embarrassed. Suddenly, I was the villain in their story. My mom called family members, saying I was having a mental health episode. My dad threatened to cut me out of the will. My sister texted, "You really had to make a scene, huh?" They rewrote the narrative, turned my pain into drama, my boundary into betrayal. But I wasn't playing along anymore. For the first time in my life, I stopped apologizing for needing to be treated like a human being. I stopped explaining my feelings to people who never listened. I blocked their numbers, changed my email. I even spoke to HR at work to protect myself from further harassment when they started calling my office. Was it easy? I still have moments of doubt, but then I remember the years of being an afterthought. I remember how quickly they turned on me, not because they were sorry, but because I embarrassed them. Family isn't about blood, it's about effort. And when that effort is always one-sided, sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. One of the most powerful lessons from Aaron's story is this: setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. For years, Aaron poured his time, energy, and money into his family, believing that hard work and loyalty would earn him love and respect. But instead of appreciation, he was met with manipulation, dismissal, and betrayal. It wasn't until he walked away that he realized peace doesn't come from being everything for everyone. It comes from choosing yourself. Too often people, especially in family dynamics, are guilted into over-functioning. You're told you're the responsible one, the helper, the fixer. But responsibility without reciprocity is exploitation. And when you're only valued for what you can provide, not who you are, it's time to reevaluate those relationships. Aaron's experience reminds us that family is not defined by blood, but by behavior. Real family shows up, listens, respects your limits, and supports your growth. If someone only calls when they need something, dismisses your feelings, or tries to manipulate you into compliance, that's not love, that's control. Choosing to walk away doesn't make you cold, it makes you courageous. It takes strength to say, "This is no longer acceptable," and to rebuild your life on your own terms. Healing begins when you decide that your mental, emotional, and physical well-being matter more than maintaining appearances or avoiding conflict. So if you're stuck in a cycle of one-sided giving, take this as a sign. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect your peace. You're allowed to start over and build something better. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of someone in your life, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking Reddit family drama stories. Your support helps us keep sharing these real-life lessons.